Okay, let's go a little bit further here. Let's get into 7th chords. And instead of 3-note chords as triads, 7th chords have 4 notes. So there's 2 ways to spell 7th chords. You can do it with intervals, which I'll do first, and then it's easier to do it with key signatures. But just so you have a deep understanding of how things are, let's do intervals first. So there's a bunch of different kinds of 7th chord. There's a major 7th. There's a minor 7th. Let's see, what else is there? There's a 7th, a dominant 7th, as we say. There's a diminished 7th. You know what? Let me put a different one before that. There's a minor 7th flat 5. Minor 7th with a flat 5. That dash means minor. I forgot. I think I missed that one when I was telling you how they indicate minor. There's a diminished 7th. And sometimes they do this. And sometimes this is written like that. What did I miss? Minor 7th, flat 5, diminished 7th. I think that's the basic ones. If I miss any, I think I'll think of them as they come along. So a major 7th is simply a major triad with a major 3rd added to the top of it. Okay, so you have a major triad, and you remember how to make those. A major 3rd, a minor 3rd, then add a major 3rd on top of it, and you'll get that. And you've all heard the sound before. It's a pretty sound. Right? A minor 7th is a minor triad, and if we're doing F here, with a minor 3rd on top of it. So F minor 7 sounds like this. A 7th is a major triad with a minor 3rd. That's a very important chord. Very tense, has to go somewhere. A minor 7th with a flatted 5th, sometimes called a half-diminished, is a diminished triad one, two, three, 4 with a major 3rd on top of it. Sounds like this. It's a good sound. A fully diminished triad, a diminished 7th, is all minor 3rds. And this is one of those places where you put the E double flat. Okay. So F, A, B, and E double flat, which is D. There's a couple variations. I missed the minor major 7th, which is a minor 7th chord with a major 3rd on top. You'll see that one. It's mostly used as a passing chord. E natural on top there. Sounds like this. That's a minor with a major 7th interval. Minor, usually put it in parentheses, with a major 7th. There's Let me get rid of the major 7th. I think you can remember that. There's an augmented 7th. Whoop. So we're going to have F, A, augmented triad. This is an augmented major 7th like this. I'll leave it in. Augmented with the, and when you're naming the chord, they talk about the interval from the root to the 7th, which just as a major 7th, it's 11 half steps. So this would be an augmented major 7th. And that would probably be in parentheses. So it's an augmented chord with a major 7th up from the root. So it sounds like this. Very dissonant. It's a major. It's an augmented triad with a minor 3rd on top. I'll get rid of the rest of these here and add it. What did I miss here? Here's probably a common one you'll come across. This is going to be an augmented 7th. So it's an augmented 7th chord. Sometimes they indicate augmented by just a plus sign. Actually, they wouldn't write it that way. They would write it the other way. They would write it's a 7th chord with a sharp 5, or sometimes you may see it like this: 7th sharp 5. It's so however you want to think of it. I mean, you know, and so, there's other ways to think of it, but some people will call it a 7th flat 13, but there really isn't. This note is the C sharp. If you put it on top, as long as you have the 7th, depending upon its context. Some people will call it a flat 13. You can do that. If it's named C sharp, it's more correctly named the sharp 5. If the composer or arranger wanted it as a flat 13, he'll have some of the other chord tones involved. But you may see it written like this sometimes too. So, you know, not everything is written in stone, but you just got to figure out what they actually want when you're voicing your chords. But again, it's you have your augmented triad, okay, with a diminished 3rd on top. So a 7th sharp 5 on guitar, it actually sounds pretty cool. So with the right voicing. So 7 sharp 5. Did I miss anything? I don't. You know. I mean, just common ones. You can put all different kinds of combinations and name them. So just remember that. Now, so again, it's always just starting with major, minor, diminished, or augmented triads, and then adding major and minor 3rds and diminished 3rds on top of them. You can spell anything. I mean, let's say, for instance, and just from what we did, suppose we want a D 7th sharp 5. So D, okay, so we need a major 3rd, we need a D triad, a major 3rd plus a minor 3rd, 7th, okay, which is a minor 3rd, and then I said sharp 5. So you just sharp the 5th. If I want a D7, put the F sharp, C, a D major 7. Well, we need a C sharp. This needs to be a major 3rd. A D7. How about a D6? Had to be. There you go. I didn't mention that one, did I? D6 with a major 6th added. So a D diminished, D minor 7 flat 5. How about that? D minor 7. So a minor 3rd, a major 3rd, and a minor 3rd, but flat the 5th. Okay. Well, the 5th is D F A. So put an A flat. So you can see, so again, this is D7, sharp 5. Could be D7. They may go D7 plus, D7, really not correct, but flat 13, because this needs to be up here and would be called a B flat. But anyway, it doesn't, it's the sound they're after. For this to be called a flat 13, instead of it being called A sharp, it would have to be B flat. But that aside, this is, of course, is our D major 7. And this is our D6. It's not a D13. You got to have, okay, so that's one important point when you're spelling chords with thirds, or with any way you spell chords. To make it a dominant type chord, like a D13, a D9, or a D7, which we'll talk about the upper structures then later on, you got to have that 7th in there. You got to have that 7th, that dominant 7th sound. So this is kind of a tonic of one chord, a D6. But to make it dominant, you have to have that 7th, and to call it a 13th, you'd have to have it that C in there. But again, if it's up here, it doesn't make it a 13th unless it has the 7th in it. What do we say here? Here we have a D minor 7, flat 5. Okay, so if we look at F again, just so you understand the upper structure of chords, you can add 9th, 11th, and 13th. Oh, a couple other things. Suspended chords. F suspended, or an F suspended chord. What you do is you substitute third for the fourth. So the third is A, so substitute the fourth note of the scale, which would be B flat. So you move the third to the fourth, a half step up, and you get this. And it usually resolves to this. It usually resolves to an F. I'm sure you've heard that. So that's the suspended chord. Always substitute, I shouldn't say, never say always, but usually you substitute the third for the fourth. Same in the upper structure of it too. A lot of times too, you'll see chords like this one. They're actually they call them poly. Well, let me finish this concept. So we have F, and let's say if it's an F7, this is a minor third. This is F7. The 9th, this would be F9. And these two chords are interchangeable, F9 for the most part, and F7. If we want to make this F7 flat 9, we just simply put a B flat in front of the 9th. This would be F7 flat 9. So you got to, when you alter that flat 9, you got to put it in. You got to say it. F11, it's really a suspended chord. Not many people, you probably wouldn't play it as an F11, but this is what it would look like. It would actually have the 3rd and the 11th in, which probably isn't a good voicing. What they would normally do is voice it like this. Not necessarily, I forgot the B flat there. G and then B flat. They would substitute anytime you have an 11. They usually move the 3rd to the 4th to give it that big suspended sound. Okay. Now a lot of times too, they'll do like an F over an E flat for this type of sound, which is just another way of saying it. So this is an F. F sus, you may see. You could see F11. A more common way you see this is like when they don't substitute it, it's an F, and on top of it, they put an E. If you really look at this, this is an E flat triad here. So they may write it like this, F over. Now, if they put it like correctly to write it as an F over an E flat triad, okay? Or a lot of times you'll see they'll just do this. E flat with an F in the bass, okay, which is just this F, and then up here they have an E flat triad. Now the voicing can be whatever it is. They all function as the 5 chord, which we'll get into. So just know, we'll catch up with all this. You'll understand all this if it's getting away from you a little bit. But that just some things with dominant 7th and major 7th chords and stuff. The 11th can be a little tricky, you know, and these polychords where they do triads, and this is a real popular way to use instead of a 5 chord, which you'll see. So. Okay, so then there's that. Now, the other thing I didn't mention, which you should probably know, is inversions. All these chords I've been showing you have been what's called root position, and I need to bring you up to speed with that. You know, if we make an F chord, the F is in the bass here, F, A, C. This is closed position, all in thirds. If you take the first note and put it on top, that's called the first inversion. So you have A, C, and F, and then the next inversion is C, F, and A. Okay, so this is called root position, where all the chords are in thirds. So if you want to know what chords you're working with, just put them all in thirds, like this here. Here's a C, here's a fourth, and here's a third. If you want to know what chord this is and you can't figure it out, which you probably can pretty easy though, just take the notes and put it into thirds. And the lowest note will be the root usually. So here we have a C, an F, and an A. Well, that's the same as this, F, A, C. So notice they're all in thirds, so you can usually identify the chord. Just be careful with the suspended fourth. Just make sure it doesn't move down to the third. The other thing that I wanted to tell you was it's the same with 7th chords. It just has one more inversion. If we would make this E flat, then you have one more inversion with the 7th in the bass. And I'll just put it there, E flat. And then you can get some really, this would be a closed position, 7th position, or third inversion, F7. Okay. Now, the other thing, too, is what you may hear, and more in arranging than guitar playing or piano playing. You can call them drop voicings. Let's just do one that's up a little bit higher so it's easier to see. If we have an A major 7 chord, A, C sharp, E, and G, okay. The first inversion is going to be C sharp, E, G, and then A on top, right? So you can do a first inversion of that, just E, G, and then A, okay? And then they have what's called drop voicings, where you can take this, like the drop 2 voicing for the first inversion would be this, we'll take the E and drop that down an octave, then put the C sharp, then put the G, and then put the A. So they use that chord, that kind of stuff in arranging when they're writing for horns and stuff like that. This is called a drop 2 first inversion. Let's just do the simplest form. So here's our A major 7th triad. And you can do this on guitar. A drop 2 voicing would just put this C sharp down an octave. So the voicing would look like this. C sharp, A, E, and G. I'm sorry, G sharp. If it's major, well, it all depends. I don't know if I called this A 7th or A major 7th. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the most important thing is when you drop either the second voice or the third voice down an octave. So there's drop 2, there's drop 2 and 4, there's drop 3 voicings, there's spread voicings, which we'll get into, when we talk about voicings. And that's in arranging and stuff, which we'll get into. So anyway, that's the skinny on 7th chord built with intervals. So any questions, just point them out below, okay? And next up, we're going to show you how to do it with key signatures, which is the most efficient and easiest way, and it'll pull a lot of things together for you. So stay tuned. This is part 5. Part 6 is coming up.